Hello, everybody. I hope everybody is doing fine. Welcome to the American History 2 exam review. My name is Brian. I am the department chairman of the high school. My email, brian.brown@pennfoster.edu, and on the community, look for Brian Brown, and Facebook, Penn Foster Brian. I'm just going to do a sound check. I hope if everybody can hear me, just give me a yes. That would be great. Awesome. Appreciate that. All right, so let's move on. The objective is to just gain an understanding of the topics that are covered in the second lesson for American history. We have this similar thing, which is on American history. If you see the link, need help with exam, if you click there, you're going to go to this study stack website that there's flashcards, games, even practice exams. And as you can see on the screen, I'll give you a couple minutes to write that down, but the link is available in the American history course. It's http://www.studystack.com/flashcard-805149. And what I've done with this webinar is I've taken sort of the questions that give students the most trouble and have put them into the webinar with a picture to hopefully then emphasize a better way to look at that topic and then therefore find the answer. So clue one, what we have is a state right to set aside a federal law. It's known as nullification. So while the federal government may say, hey, you have to do this, okay, if it's not in the Constitution, the states don't necessarily need to go along with that. Okay, little clues, stop the feds. You think you can't stop big government? Yes, you can. It may be something the federal government may say the minimum wage is going up. Some states may say, well, we don't want to go along with that. It may hurt too many businesses by paying too much money. Or there may be states who go about their own and say, we think the minimum wage is too low, so let's up that. Okay? It can work both ways. And also, if I haven't noted already, please save all your questions for the end, and we'll certainly go through those. Clue number 2, spawned by the Madison administration's insensitivity towards New England states. That's the clue. The answer is the Hartford Convention. And what had happened is the New England states started getting worried because the United States started expanding. We had the Louisiana Purchase. We kept growing and growing. And nobody seemed sensitive to these states who were so instrumental in the United States gaining their independence. I mean, the New England states with, the Boston Tea Party and everything, all the information coming out of New England to help spur on the Revolutionary War. And they were feeling like, wow, everybody's growing and we're just going to be left out in the cold. And they weren't feeling like they were going to have their say in government. And so they did their own convention, and, there was talk maybe they would, form their own sort of country and this and that. And obviously they didn't, things worked out, but this is what happened. As far as remembering Hartford, that was the convention. There's a Hart and Ford. Now, another clue, the North Star newspaper. Big person involved in that is Frederick Douglass. Obviously, Frederick Douglass, anytime you will hear his name, you're going to certainly read about some anti-slavery movements. Frederick Douglass was a very well-spoken man, and he was certainly spent his life trying to fight the impacts of slavery. And if you get a chance, if you haven't read his autobiography, I certainly recommend you do that. Many students read it before high school, but even in college, they will make people read his book. It's a great book. And there is Frederick Douglass. Interesting, a couple of his sons actually went on to fight in the Civil War. Clue number 4. Mid-19th century political party that strongly favored commercial capitalism. They were the Whigs. And there's Katy Perry with a wig on. So when you think of capitalism and making money, of course, Katy Perry does make her share of money, and she wears wigs. So I hope that helps you remember that. Clue number 5, it's post-war of 1812 expansion goal. Florida. We really wanted Florida. It certainly would give us access to different waters, in water areas, to be able to then put boats and ships and send things and get things into different places. And think of Florida, here's, of course, Florida on a map. But a lot of people think of Florida and they think of those nice, beautiful beaches with the beautiful water. I've been to Florida actually one time, and that was to Disney, and it was certainly awesome. Clue number 6, Seneca Falls Convention. And that was where the Declaration of Sentiments was made, which was about women's rights. Okay, so you have a woman speaking right here. And of course, we now have women who, because of the fights of women in the past, in the mid-1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s, people such as Hillary Clinton are now able to run for president even, something that probably would have never been thought of back in the 1800s. Clue number 7. In the mid-19th century, only 25% of white Southerners, it's the clue, owned slaves. And so you might say, well, geez, only 25% owned slaves, and why was there such a ruckus over, anti-slavery movement? If there was 75% of the people in the South that didn't have slaves, why didn't they just say, well, hey, we just want to be part of the union, and that's it? Well, as with many things, money controls a lot of things. Money can control politicians. Money can control a lot of things. So a lot of the plantation owners were very wealthy, and there were politicians who were also plantation owners. So when you have that much money and that much influence, things aren't easy to change if that side does not want to change. I mean, there were plantation owners who would make upwards to, $170,000 in a year by using slave labor on their plantations. And when you equate that to today, you're talking about like $5 million. So that money certainly had something to do with, wanting to keep slavery alive. And of course, there was the racism and prejudice, that goes along with that. But money certainly was up there as one of the causes. Here's a Clue 7 visual. This is actually a clip from the film Roots. Actually, it was a mini-series in the late 70s, early 80s. That's actually LeVar Burton, who now I think he's on Star Trek or one of those shows now. But if you haven't seen Roots, I highly suggest that you rent it or watch it on Netflix or something. It'll give you at that time, going back 35 years or so, it was really, really, really graphic on the way slaves were treated. It was just an awesome movie to help understand slavery and what it was about. Clue number 8, provided a home market. The answer is an American system. Basically what an American system was the politicians felt and said, hey, you know what? We have all these factories, we have industries, we have farmers in America trying to make money, but if we're letting people from overseas bring things in for cheaper, nobody's going to buy those American products. So it was decided, let's put a tariff or a tax on anything coming into the country from other places. Okay, so it helped spur on movements to make industry widely accepted within America. Of course, as with anything American, we love big homes. There's the American eagle by the flag, just to represent what the American system can do for people. Clue number 9. Andrew Jackson won the electoral plurality, but not the presidency in the election of 1824. And interesting enough, you can win and have the most electoral votes, but when you have more than one person running, you might not get the majority. Okay? And that's what happened here. On the left, as you can see, my highlighters here moving up and down, and Jackson had 99 electoral votes, Adams had 84, Crawford 41, and then 37 for Clay. Now, what happens then, because the total electoral votes were, you're looking at 183, 224, 261 if I'm counting right, so you would need 132 to get elected. You need one more than half of the total votes. Since Jackson did that, now it goes to the House of Representatives for a vote. Okay, and in that, since there was one vote per state, okay, we had 24 states at the time. Now Adams gets the most votes for state by 13, and he becomes president of the United States in 1824. There's also, you may read about some deals, backroom deals, that Henry Clay, who was into running for president on the first go around, had said some things, and then some other people trying to make some backroom deals. If you make me such and such in your office under your presidency, I'll try to lead the votes towards you in the presidency. It could never be proven, but it is something that's always been speculated and something that Jackson's people called out and just could never get a firm approval of that belief. Clue number 10, first president of Texas was actually Sam Houston. And remember, Texas wasn't always a state. It was a republic before, we had then invited them into the Union. So Sam Houston's republic, there's a book. Interesting, Sam Houston, I actually spent time when I was in the military at Fort Sam Houston, which is in San Antonio, Texas. And of course the fort is named after the first president of Texas. Clue 11 is John Marshall. And the answer that goes with that is Marbury versus Madison, because John Marshall was actually the Supreme Court justice who ruled on this case. And what had happened was he made the power of judicial review something that was now recognized and had to be followed. Just because somebody wealthier or this and that was saying, well, this is the way it is. No, the judge has now decided, hey, this is the law and this is what you need to go by. And so this case was very big in the power of judicial review. Clue 12, the influential editor and proponent of the Young America movement. His name was John L. Sullivan. He also coined the phrase, as far as manifest destiny, the United States just moving westward, grabbing up land as much as we can. He was also involved in that. And sort of to represent that, here's everybody. We're sort of, people are on horses and wagons, and we're just going westward for, bigger and better things. whether it's land to farm or, and as later on you go like, in the 1840s, 1849, you get this, big gold rush out west, hence the name, football names like the San Francisco 49ers, all these things were happening at that time. Clue 13, help make New York City the unchallenged commercial capital of the nation. The Erie Canal. And there you go. We have a picture of, Buffalo as the western terminal of the Erie Canal. And of course, New York City, which is now huge. Obviously wasn't that huge at this time. But by having the canal now, New York could now connect to places west to get products to and from, which made it very special. I mean, you go west, now you're going to Ohio, and you can go, to Lake Erie, and then you could move up to Canada now, with ships and everything. And so it made the travel easier, and it certainly then made New York a much, much more productive and economically advantaged state. Clue 14 is founded the Oneida community. His name is John Humphrey Noyes. And there's this community of the Oneida community. Basically, it was like a commune that was a very religious commune that had beliefs, certain beliefs in Jesus, and so they had come together because of their beliefs. Clue number 15, spawned cotton as the major crop of the South. A lot of you certainly may know this, but some people miss this, so I just wanted to make sure and add this in. Of course, it's the cotton gin, and being able to, get cotton produced at a much faster rate certainly helped. There's cotton and a bottle of gin to help you remember that. I don't want anybody going and drinking gin, but it certainly helps represent visually what we're trying to say here. Clue 16. The Indian nation that used the strategy of accommodation to survive. It was the Cherokee. Picture that I really like to show for that is Cherokee red soda. I don't know if anybody's ever had Cherokee red soda. Delicious. It's great. So hopefully that'll help you remember that. Clue 17. As a result of his treaty negotiations, the United States gained 500,000 square miles from Mexico. It was Nicholas Trist. Okay, so with this treaty that the Trist performed, we have, we gained all this land, this white land here, or of course Texas then. Which now we ended up with, eventually we would end up with states, New Mexico, Arizona, California, Nevada's in there somewhere, a lot of land, so, and remember his name, Nicholas, I added St. Nicholas in there for those who do, certainly follow the Christmas holidays. Clue 18, president who oversaw the expansion of the federal court system. Was Thomas Jefferson. So remember that Thomas Jefferson's witness, and of course he was the president, the Marbury versus Madison case. So Jefferson was on the $2 bill at one time, and just there's another picture of the gavel. Hopefully that helps you remember what president saw that growth of the judicial court system. Clue 19, help precipitate the financial panic of 1837. It's called the Specie Circular. Basically what that was anything you were paying for had to be gold and silver, so you could see the panic. If you didn't have gold or silver, now all of a sudden, holy cow, wow, what are you going to do? You're telling me my paper money is no good, and so there was a big panic that ensued for that. Clue 20, Elias Howe. That's the clue. And he made the sewing machine. Well, that doesn't seem too hard. Sometimes the answers are really hidden, so a good thing to do is as you're looking through and, this webinar, I'm certainly recording it, when you look those answers up in the back of your book in the index, you can narrow down pages to see. And the sewing machine, what it had done too is it made it easier for wives, homemakers to make clothes for their family. And up until factories may have taken over, big sewing factories, I mean, a lot of stuff was done at home. And there's a picture of an old sewing machine. Clue 21. It was the Louisiana Purchase was a treaty between the United States and, of course, it was France. And just here, easy visual map, Louisiana Purchase, 1803 from France. We gained all that land. I mean, we almost doubled the size of the United States by getting that land. And when you consider we didn't pay very much for it in monetary terms, France just needed the money, and so we were certainly willing to take it off their hands. Now, clue 22, a nation developed to transport freed blacks. Country is Liberia. You think of, liberty, freedom, that sort of thing. It is in Africa. There's a map, and there is Liberia. So there was a time when blacks, as they became free, they could go to Liberia if they wanted to. And I'll just quickly go through the references for you. Should always use cite references when you use pictures or whatever you use for any source. Okay, so that being said, I will certainly now open it up for questions. I thank everybody, for coming to the webinar, and I certainly hope that you've been taking advantage of all the webinars. We have one more for May next week. Miss Mallory will be doing another one on math. And in June, we're going to be focusing on reading skills. So no matter what course you're in, learning better ways to comprehend what you're reading and understand what you're reading, certainly a good idea. Keep on the June schedule. We'll have that out soon. I believe we have the webinars going to be June 18th, 19th, and the 26th. We're going to get 3 really good webinars in 1 month on reading. We feel that'll help everybody. So I'll certainly open up the questions now.